Hello everyone, my name is Jeevan. In this video, I'm going to explain risk. What is risk? And how to manage risk and what are the risk levels can be and the risk metrics and all. So in an infosec domain, the risk management and risk is very vast domain where it comes through the all several phases to manage how to manage, assess, mitigate, and the monitor the risk level. So it's very uh, detailed domain, but here I'm just trying to explain what is risk really mean in a layman term. So the risk refer to the degree of uncertainty or expectation that an adverse event may cause damage to the system. So it's just create the uncertainty in the system. Uh, the level of uncertainty defines the level of risk as well. So if there is everywhere a risk, whatever business or whatever work we do, we there is a risk, but we need to understand how much risk is there, and also we can take the appropriate action to mitigate those risks or avoid those risks. So there is a two things, the risk avoidance or risk mitigation as well, reduction. So what actually the risk is? The risk is something comes with there is a threat in the system, and threat comes with there is a vulnerability. So actual the origin of risk in an infosec world, there is a system where uh, there is a vulnerability or a flaw in the system. So based on that flaw, there is a threat. There is a threat actors who may attack into your system. So there is a threat to get your system attacked. So then once the attacker will attack into your system, so there will be some sort of impact, the loss of business, loss of reputation, loss of monetary gain or uh, anything. So to define this, how much risk will be and what is our risk taking capability or tolerance level. So there is a tabular two-dimensional matrix and is defined which tells what to do in a normal cases. This table is not complete fit in every case, but that helps to define your company risk management cycle. Uh, so there are risk levels. The risk levels can go from low, medium, high, or extreme level. So the risk level is about how quickly you need to take the action on if there is a risk identified in your system. Then let's say there is a low risk identified, low level risk. So there is you can take some sort of preventive measure, but really you don't need to worry at a keep this as a top topic, top item in your to-do list. But if there is extreme or high level of risk identified, then you may need to take immediate action or measure to combat that risk. Then risk matrix. So the risk matrix is a tabular defined risk, vulnerability, and there is a asset value also. So based on the asset value, the risk determined. So that also help in identifying the risk level. So risk level is if identified, then there is a matrix also we can define. The matrix is just about the risk scale, the risk occurrence, the likelihood, probability, along with its consequences or impact. So if you read this table here, so it clearly states if you have a risk here some and the risk probability is let's say 1 to 20%. So the likelihood, the chances of this risk, the impact will be very, very low probable, and the impact will be very low. If even if it happens, if someone get attack your that particular low risk uh, low probable risk area, then the attacker is not going to do much into your environment. So let's say you have some risk, which is risk matrix fit in that item in a this level. For example, the severity is very extreme or major, and the probability, the chances, the likelihood of uh, having uh, attack or getting attack into that system is probably high or very high. Then your significant impact, the consequences will be very extreme. You may lose everything. So based on that matrix, uh, the the risk assessments done, and after the assessment, this matrix help company or us who manage the environment to take the appropriate action, how to mitigate, what to take first and what to do little later. So this is in under the risk and the risk level and risk matrix all about. Now coming to the another topic, that is risk management. So risk management, the first thing first, we need to identify the risk. If there is a risk, we need to manage that risk. We cannot completely fix the risk. There is a no system in a real world where you don't have any risk. There will be risk, but as you have seen there, as per the matrix, the chances, the probability may be less, and the consequences may be very low because the risk level is very low there. So we need to identify, we have assets in our environment. So asset can be any item, employee, or any intellectual property or physical asset that is very gives some value addition to your company. So that's called asset. So every asset has an asset value. So we have to identify that value of that asset, and then we assess the risk. Let's say what happens if someone attack into it, how much losses we are going to get. This is what which I just spoke about, the consequences, the impact of the attack, losing that data, and how to handle it. Then that comes with the so this complete go in a cycle. So this process is complete ongoing process everyone needs to follow to mitigate or risk management, we can say. Even we cannot completely mitigate it, we cannot fix it, but we can reduce the chances, we can reduce the likelihood of happening that risk. That's all about the risk management. So risk management goes in a 5 phases normally, and it is the process of reducing and maintaining risk at an acceptable level. Like I mentioned, to reduce the risk, so it can be at a acceptable level. So that what is acceptable level, that depends on the organization or someone's risk taking capability and risk tolerance level uh, will determine probably X vulnerability or flaw in some system may be low risk for X company, but but the same flaw can be a high risk for different company. Let's say there is a vulnerability coming in your Apache system, and high severity vulnerability. Then when you do the assessment of your network, you got to know you are not using Linux system. Then you don't need to worry about this high severity vulnerability. Uh, so then in that case, your system, there is a high severity vulnerability out for the Apache system, but you are not using Apache system, then you are, for the risk, the chances of is very almost nil. At the same time, the person who is using this Apache system in their infrastructure, they they have a high risk of, and the probably the chances of happening attack into their system if they don't take appropriate countermeasure, then their environment will be very risky. So this is what we need to assess the phases. The management will go in phases. The first one, the identifying the risk. The first thing first, we need to identify the risk. So how we identify the risk? We have to identify our assets and we have to determine the asset value. The identifying the source and causes, consequences and other details of internal and external risk affecting the security of your organization. So you have to identify your assets and then you have to evaluate your assets uh, based on the vulnerabilities or any penetration testing you run, so that report comes, or you can do the risk assessment based on the reporting. So you identify your real assets which you really care about or concern about. Then you run the analyze, the assess. The assessment will be to estimate the likelihood and impact of the risk. That's the table we talk about. So based on the assessment and the analysis, you will identify and prepare this tabular matrix for your organization's valuable assets. Then the third one, you'll evaluate and rank them. So this the two and the third one comes with the uh, risk matrix based tracking, and based on that risk matrix you determine and you put your valuable assets into the tabular field, and so that you can take appropriate action and prioritize your uh, risk management about your assets as well. Then third one, treat the risk. How to treatment the treatment how to treat. Let's say you have now identified, list the metrics and levels identified about the assets what you have in your infrastructure. Now you need to plan or define your strategy how to treat them. So select and implement appropriate control, uh, the counter security controls or countermeasure to identify for the identified risk, and what to do. What can we do? What can you do to reduce the surface, the attack surface, uh, and reduce the maintain the risk level at a acceptable level as per our risk taking capability, the risk tolerance level of any company. And next one, the last uh, phase, that is monitor and review the risk, review and monitoring. So once that all these phases done, you have identify the risks and you have analyzed, assessed those, and then you have evaluated and ranked the risks, and now you have treated those risks with the appropriate control. Then you will review what you have done overall, and then you'll monitor, and then again it will go into your first phase, the identifying the risk. So that's a complete ongoing cycle that goes one after another, and that helps to evaluate the performance of implemented risk management strategy, which help to reduce the attack surface and protect the businesses. And this is really important, and this is really vast topic and a complete domain in infosec security as well. So which is start from this identifying risks, analyzing, ranking, and then treating and monitoring and reviewing. So how maturely you have defined this policy in your organization, that's going to give a another shoot to uh, deployment model that you are following. You may have this phases will be common for everyone, but how maturely that is defined and how strongly they are followed in your organization, that make a big uh, difference. Uh, that's it in this video. Uh, if you like, please consider subscribing my channel. Thank you.